I realized I start a lot of these with questions, and it's going to be the same thing today because the question we're talking about is, do the Ravens have a culture problem? A lot's gone down the past couple of days with the whole Diontae Johnson suspension, his frustrations, his refusal to play in the game against the Eagles. But then I kind of took a little bit of a deeper dive and a little bit of a deeper look into some of the other problems with the safety position and Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams. We'll talk all about that on today's episode, but it made me beg the question, do they have a culture problem? Would you say John Harbaugh is the blame for the culture problem? If there is one, right? I put in quotations to kind of save myself. If there is, do you think John Harbaugh is to blame? If so, give me a Y in the comment section down below, and if not, give me an N. So just to start off, it's pretty apparent to me that this culture isn't what it once was, right? You still have the term play like a Raven, but it still seems like it's a little bit different now than it used to be, okay? And I think every single one of you guys would agree with me that this team, as it sits right now, just has a different feel and a different vibe than the teams that won Super Bowls, than the Ray Lewis teams, the Ed Reed teams, the old Joe Flacco teams. Like, it just seems like things are a little bit different. Now, I don't know if that's because John Harbaugh's getting older or if because he has, quote-unquote, lost the locker room, but it feels different. Like there's not as strong as a bond, not as strong as a culture between the team itself. And culture it's a tricky word, okay? I get it. It's a buzzword. It's a word people like to use a lot when talking about sports, when talking about teams. And to me, it comes down to two questions with it. And you're going to look at it in two different ways. Does culture breed winning? Or does winning breed culture? It's a little bit of like chicken and the egg type of thing, right? Because you could talk about how good of a culture this team has, but a lot of times those are just the teams that win. And the teams that lose, those are a lot of times the teams that have bad culture. So are they losing because of their bad culture? Or do they have bad culture because they're losing? Now, I would have said that probably winning breeds culture more than anything, but this team's been winning this year, and it still feels like things are just a little bit off. Number one reason, and number one thing we're going to look at with this culture problem is Deontay Johnson's refusal to play against the Eagles this past Sunday, okay? Jeff Zrebiec reported on this in the New York Times of The Athletic. He had this to say. He said, Johnson's growing frustration with his lack of involvement in Baltimore's offense had become palpable in recent weeks. He's been emotional after games, so much so that Jackson has spent significant time with Johnson at his locker, talking things through and trying to calm the emotional wide receiver down. Things Sunday reached a boiling point during Sunday's loss to the Eagles after Johnson didn't get on the field early in the game. The Ravens officially ruled out starting wide receiver Rashad Bateman early in the third quarter because of a knee injury, and Johnson declined numerous requests to play. There are so many things wrong with this. I mean, there are so many things wrong with the 3, 5, 6, 7 sentences I just read to you. Number one, first of all, it's the fact that they had to ask him numerous times to get in the game. Okay? And it's obvious he was making a statement. He was saying to this team, he was saying to John Harbaugh, hey, if you're not going to play me, like in the beginning of this game, if I'm not going to be a legit rotational piece in this wide receiver room, then screw you. When you need me, when a guy goes down, I'm not playing. You didn't want me to play earlier. I'm not going to play for you now, okay? And I can kind of see where he's coming from. And I know it's probably not popular to take this stance I don't want to say like I'm supporting him for his decision. I'm not supporting him for the decision he made on Sunday, but it kind of makes sense to me. When he was in Carolina with 7 games, 57 targets, 30 receptions, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was all in 7 games with a 95-year-old Andy Dalton and possibly one of the biggest busts in a quarterback in Bryce Young throwing him the football. And he was still putting up those numbers. He was the obvious wide receiver 1 on that team. Well, we knew he wasn't going to come in and be the wide receiver 1 on this team, but you thought he'd still get a little bit more run than he's been getting. 6 snaps against Denver, 3 against Cincy, 6 against Pittsburgh, 4 against Los Angeles, 0 against Philadelphia. Okay? And so he comes in here. He's probably excited to finally be on a winning team, and he's not playing football. And I don't know why that is. I truly don't. It might be just solely because of his attitude, but I kind of find that hard to believe because Nelson Agholor played 40 snaps on Sunday. And I know he refused to go in the game, but guys, I think Deontay Johnson's better than Nelson Agholor. I think he's easily wide receiver 3 on this roster. So I got a question for you. Which side of the drama are you on? Are you on Johnson's or are you on the Ravens and DaCosta and John Harbaugh? If you're with Johnson, go ahead and type J in the comment section down below for me. If you're with the Ravens, give me an R. This is about to be a pinned comment on today's YouTube video. YouTube is about to throw you an ad break, and when that time comes, take advantage of that time by finding this comment and replying for me. Okay, so my take on this whole thing is I think Johnson was out of place for refusing to go into the game. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You get paid a lot of money to do a job, and then we're asking you to do your job, and you're straight up just saying no. Also, being in this city, being on this team for only a month, you're refusing. Come on, get over yourself. But I also think it's coaching malpractice to not have him more involved in this offense. Okay? And if you look at the statistics, you might be saying, Joey, what do you mean not having him more involved in this offense? He sucks. Why would you have him more involved in this offense? 5 targets, 1 reception, 6 yards, 0 touchdowns. But guys, that's because he hasn't been playing. He hasn't been playing. Plain and simple, okay? What, 6'3", 6'4"? I'm trying to do the math here. He's probably got about 20-something snaps on the year. 5 targets, 1 reception. I know he's not helping out this team as much as I hoped or as much as you hoped, but they're not playing him. And that doesn't make sense to me. I'm trying to rack my brain to figure out why that's happening and why that's the case, and I can't find an answer. And so you got a guy who is, 1 month into being with this organization, and he's already emotional after games. He's already having to get talked to by the star quarterback and the leader of this team at his locker. He's having to be consoled. I think it's a little bit of a Johnson issue, but I also think it's a little bit on this coaching staff as well. I think things need to get figured out. I don't know if they will. If I had to bet, I don't think they will, but we'll see. Thanks so much for tuning in so far, everybody. Before we go on any further, I got a lot more to get into. I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video. It is our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats and the lowest prices guaranteed. And if you want tickets to any of the big college football or NFL games, Game Time is the place to go. Game Time, it has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks, and that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The tool highlights the best deals, including great and amazing deals with highest value seat at the time. And sometimes Game Time also identifies a super deal, which is the best seat value in the venue. I have the pleasure of being able to say that my Tennessee Volunteers are about to go into the college football playoff, and I'm going to go see them. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to use Game Time. They have the lowest price guaranteed. They offer you amazing deals every single day, and you get to see the views from your seat as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. I think the second thing that might be an indication that the culture is just a little bit different in Baltimore this year is the failure in the play of Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams. And I think when talking about Eddie Jackson, it goes a little bit deeper than maybe even I knew, and that's really been heavily reported, okay? Went back, was looking at Jeff Zrebiec's old tweets, found this from the day he was being released, okay? Zrebiec had to say this: Ravens have waived veteran safety Eddie Jackson and signed inside linebacker Christian Welch to the active roster. Jackson wasn't pleased with his reduced roles, frustrations boiled over Steelers week, and he didn't accompany the team on the trip. He's now released, okay? And I think at the time, everybody's just like, who cares? He sucks. Why would he be mad? He wasn't playing because he's awful at football. And I agree to an extent. But now after this whole Diontae Johnson saga, I kind of been taking a different look at it and saying, man, if there was a winning bond, a winning culture and a group of guys that just loved playing together, loved competing with each other, if his role was reduced to help the team win football games, wouldn't he maybe not as make a big of a deal about that? Wouldn't he maybe be, okay, it's okay, I can take a back seat to guys like Darius Washington and guys maybe even like Marcus Williams, as long as this team is winning. And if I can help that in any way I can, I'm going to do that. But no, he was frustrated, ended up getting released. And that's not the only safety that's had struggles this season as well. Okay, Eddie Jackson was benched. Marcus Williams was released. And at the end of the day, my take with all this is I'm happy that the coaches made the decisions that they did. However, we have to ask ourselves why these guys were put in these places to fail. Because Marcus Williams last year was a pretty good safety. Okay, I'm not going to say he was the second coming of Ed Reed or anything like that, but he was solid. And Eddie Jackson has had a pretty great career. And then you just see a massive drop-off in the both of them. And it happened this year. And so, again, I don't know the answer to this question, but I do know that things feel different. And I've got two ways and two things I think need a change going forward if you want to get back to winning football in the most important time of the year, and that's December and that's January, okay? Number one, I think Harbaugh just needs to be a little bit less robotic and more human. That was one of my biggest takeaways from watching the Hard Knocks episode earlier this week, is he just seems old and he just seems like a little disconnected, right? You never hear in press conferences and in post-game interviews the guys just talking about how much they love John Harbaugh, right? It's never like, oh, I die for him, all this stuff. It's just like, yeah, we love Coach, like, Coach is cool, all that stuff. But you never just hear like, man, he just gets the best out of us. He brings us all together. I'd run through a brick wall for that man. So I think he needs to just like chill out, be a little more relatable. Stop having a stick up your ass. Like, take the chip out of your back that is programming you to be a robot and just be a human, okay? And then number two, I just think there needs to be a little bit more player-led accountability in this group. I get it. Roquan Smith, he's that guy. Lamar Jackson, they're great leaders, but it just like, they're not the Ray Lewises. They're not the Ed Reeds. And I get it, very few people are, but I just think there needs to be a little bit more of that. I think you've seen an uptick in that as the secondary has improved the past couple weeks, but I just need to see it from the team as a whole. Okay, that's what I need to see going forward are those two things. I want you to rant for me in the comment section down below. How do the Ravens get things back on track in 2024? You let me know because they have to. If they want to make a deep playoff run, if they want to make it to a Super Bowl, if they want to do something they haven't been able to do in years, they're going to need things to change. You let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, everybody. This has been Ravens Rundown. I am your guy, Joey Petersen. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button.